Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is Caitlin from grassfedgirl.com. And today we're so excited. We have my friend Dani Williamson. She is a Hashimoto specialist here in Nashville, out in Franklin. And she has been working with Hashimoto's for many, many years. And she has a special story to share with us about how she got started and also what we can do ourselves to help our own thyroids and to refine our lifestyle so we can get to be the best we can be. So,
You bet. Thank you, Caitlin. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we're really lucky to have you today because, she has a huge weight out at her practice. So you guys are getting the inside scoop. And she's had to switch over to telehealth, which is, calling people on the phone or video chats because because of the coronavirus, but she's still in business and she's making the best of it.
Hanging on by a thread, but we're doing it. So yeah, it's been a whole new world the last 2 weeks. So
for sure, for everyone, I think
for everyone, not just us. And I'm very blessed, right, that I can still do telehealth and we can sell our supplements out of the supplement store and just So we've pivoted gigantically, but we're making it work. We'll see. This week will be the test on how we're doing.
And well, that's amazing. I mean, I know health problems don't stop just because there's something else going on, or chronic illness doesn't stop just because there's a pandemic.
That's exactly right. You're right. So we'll do the best we can, and this is temporary. It's a season, and every season ends, right? So yeah, it's not ideal, and I can't touch people's thyroids, through the screen. So that's difficult for me, and it's difficult for the patients, but we'll get through it. Everybody will get through it. We'll be okay.
Well, they can always go. I mean, I just went for my first ultrasound in my life a few months ago. So, but so I mean, you can always get help later.
You bet you can. You bet you can. What I do is not an emergent business in here anymore. I'm no longer primary care. I just focus on thyroid, gut health first and foremost, thyroid, adrenals, and hormones. I do not step outside the box anymore. I am sticking to my lane and staying there. And so anything that I do is not an emergency. It's just not. So we're okay. The fact that you didn't refill your thyroid medicine and you knew you had 0 refills left and it's down to 2 pills left, I'm sorry, that's not an emergency on my part, right? So I'm trying to train people that, you need to look ahead. And if that thyroid medicine says, last refill, and that was 28 days ago, then you should have, reached out 28 days ago. So that's about the biggest emergency I get in this office.
Well, we know that thyroid patients are very neglected for many years usually. So by the time they get to you, they're really in bad shape sometimes.
So that's the absolute truth. We don't see the healthiest of the healthiest in here when we get them. We tend to see a tremendous amount of really significant autoimmune disease in here. And people have gone around that same mountain for many times, decades, with the same complaints, the same concerns, right? Fatigue, weight gain, foggy headedness, hair falling out, dry hair, dry skin, can't pooping too much. You just every symptom known to man, and they're just told, your labs are normal. I don't know, but maybe Prozac will help. Or here's your pill, here's your pamphlet. Let's get you to endocrinology. And endocrinology is great, but what I have learned honestly through the years is endocrinology, they're not specialists in Hashimoto's or thyroid for the most part. Now, there are some good endocrinologists out there that for sure, but they really deal more with diabetes. Endocrinologists do. I mean, do you agree with me?
I mean, I've been to some that had no clue, that's for sure.
That's exactly right. And so I have a really amazing one here in Nashville that I work hand in hand with, and I adore him. But yes, many times. Hashimoto's, is the number one undiagnosed autoimmune disease in the United States. Number one. And it can go undiagnosed for decades before people ever get the diagnosis. And it is absolutely ridiculous that no one gets the diagnosis, right? When they check thyroid labs, they should check thyroid antibodies on everyone. And if you want to get into how I got started on this, it was by accident. I spent $200,000 on an education at Vanderbilt for a nurse practitioner and nurse midwifery degree. Not one time was I ever told to check antibodies. And 10 years ago, when I first got out of school, I missed a diagnosis on a man nonetheless. And women have autoimmune disease 8 to 10 times more than men do. And we can get into why I believe that is, but I missed a diagnosis. He came in, he didn't feel well. His thyroid was a little bit off, but not too bad. And I didn't check antibodies. And he came back to me and said, my chiropractor, my antibodies. Well, at that time, I wasn't, side by side with chiropractors like I am now. Oh my gosh, I love my chiropractor. But I was like, your chiropractor checked what do you mean you have Hashimoto's? I didn't even barely knew what it was. I went back and looked at all my, because I just gotten out of school, looked at all my notes. I had one slide out of 3 years of education on Hashimoto's and Graves' disease. It's an autoimmune disease. That's all it said. And I was like, what the heck? I lost him as a patient. We have stayed in contact though, because I tell him every time I run into him at Whole Foods, he's like, well, you're really busy, aren't you? And I said, yes. And it's thanks to you, because I vowed at that moment that I would never, ever, ever miss a diagnosis of Hashimoto's thyroiditis ever again. And I haven't. I check every single person who comes in this office. First visit, their thyroid antibodies are checked, and either they have it or they don't. And it's as simple as that. And I can't tell you how many patients have no idea that they have antibodies. And I mean people from teenagers all the way up to 65, 68 years old. And I'm like, well, something, you've got this condition. And because I hate to say disease, or, you've got this condition called Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And they're like, what? I don't even know what that is. Yeah.
Why do you think doctors don't want to test antibodies?
Well, here's what number one, we're not taught, right? So just straight up, no education on it is a big one. Just like me, I missed it. I'm open to checking anything, but if you don't know, you don't know, right? Number two, and I'm sure you've experienced this, many providers do not believe you can do anything about it. So why check it? If you can't fix it, what good does it do? Or they may check it one time and they never check your antibodies again. I run into that all the time with patients who come in, and I've got their records, and I'm looking at their records, and I'm like, well, Caitlin, you wrote on here you have Hashimoto's, but I don't see any labs on here. And they're like, yeah, they refuse to check them because they tell me there's nothing I can do about it. So the research shows that we are practicing about 20 years behind what the research shows, right? 20 years behind. I was taught 20 years behind. When I already got out of school, I was already 20 years behind. Good Lord.
Maybe 50.
Maybe 50. And what I find is traditional providers, and most of my colleagues that I graduated nurse practitioner school with, traditional providers don't have time to do the research, right? When we step out of the boat and get into functional medicine, we study all the time, and we're reading constantly on PubMed and UpToDate and all the different journals to see what's out there. And we understand that there's research out there. Of course, there's research for everything. You can find research to support anything you want. So you always have to be careful with that, right? Right. But my traditional friends are seeing 30, 35, 40 patients a day. I'm not, because I don't take insurance. So I only see 8 to 10 patients a day. I have time to research and to help you figure out what's going on with you specifically.
That still sounds like a lot.
Well, it is a lot, but that's what, who knows now? It may be a whole new deal after this week.
So when you see people what do you try to tell them about their diet first, and how does that impact Hashimoto's?
Well, it impacts Hashimoto's 100%, right? Because we know that the gut and the thyroid are intricately connected there. The gut and the brain are connected. The gut is connected to everything in your body. It's 80% or more of your immune system, right? So I'm a huge fan of let's cut out the top 7 inflammatory foods initially, right? Which would be gluten, dairy, soy, corn, sugar, eggs, and peanuts. Initially, not everybody has an egg sensitivity, not everybody has a peanut sensitivity, but those are the top 7 inflammatory foods in the country. We know for a fact you don't eat gluten if you have Hashimoto's. Gluten is one of the #1 triggers of the thyroid, of inflammation of the thyroid, right? And dairy's #2. So I cut people out gluten and dairy, and that is the hard. Dairy is way harder than gluten to cut out with patients. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with that, because the dairy's just so good.
Oh my gosh, everybody loves cheese. It's the hardest thing for me. My food sensitivities from 10 years ago to 2019 still have gluten, dairy, eggs, and cashews are the top 4 for me. Food sensitivities. And cashews aren't one of the top 7 in the country, but they are one of the top 88 in the country. But mine have been on there for 10 years. It doesn't matter how I've healed my gut, those are still reactions for me. And I've been without gluten for a long time, but dairy, cheese is a comfort food to me, and I just tell people it's cow snot. It's cow snot and it's cow pus. Don't eat it. And that's a little better to make you think, But yes, your diet creates inflammation in your body. And Hashimoto's thyroiditis, itis means inflammation, right? Just like me with arthritis, gastritis, sinusitis, colitis, vasculitis, thyroiditis. Itis is inflammation. What's creating the inflammation? 99.9% of the time, it's what you're eating. So the first thing we do is do an elimination diet, and we cut those triggers out. And I tell them, our goal is to have a resilient gut eventually, right? Now, do I think you need to eat gluten and dairy ever again? No, I don't. But the thing is, what if you're out with your friends and you want a burger and a beer? I don't know. I don't drink beer, but a burger and a bourbon, maybe. I'm a Kentucky girl, so it'd be more bourbon, right? Burger and a bourbon. Well, you don't want to have to be in bed for 5 days after that. So eventually, maybe you can have a burger and a bourbon, right, with your friends. The goal is to have resiliency. And so as you heal the gut, you're going to be more resilient. But gluten and dairy, to me, are non-negotiables. Those need to be out of your diet. Do you agree with me on that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, dairy, I did gluten right away, and that wasn't hard. And then I played around with dairy off and on, and it doesn't, I seem okay with goat cheese now lately, but the more dairy I eat, the more I gain weight. And it's not really an immediate reaction, but it's more like a couple days I'll get swollen and.
Exactly. Well, food sensitivities are delayed, and many people, Caitlin, you're more in tune with your body. I am as well, but many people are not in tune with their body. Food sensitivities are delayed 3 hours to 3 days later. So many people don't realize if they have joint pain or a migraine headache or diarrhea or constipation or bloating or what have you, fatigue. It could be something we ate, what is it, it's 10:14 this morning. Maybe something you ate at 7 o'clock this morning, or it could be something you ate on Friday night.
Yeah.
But people aren't in tune. For me, it's delayed as well with dairy. Usually, though, by the next day, and it shows up in joint pain for me, joint pain in my hands and severe bloating.
If I eat it for a few days, and the amount matters too, like I can get away with a little bit, but if I eat a lot, like I'll start to feel like I have a cold, like my ears start hurting and my throat starts hurting.
That's right.
Like, okay, too much. You gotta cut that.
That's right. Well, it's thick and it's gunky, and that's exactly right. And it's one of the big things during this COVID-19, and I haven't seen any research on this. This is just my own theory on this. This is a mucus disease, right? And it creates copious amounts of mucus in the lungs and the respiratory tract. you've got to cut out dairy. There can't be any dairy during this season for sure, because it just increases, right, the mucus in your body. We cut it out with asthmatic patients, with any sort of bronchitis or pneumonia patients, which is not the same, but very similar to what we're dealing with COVID-19. So no dairy whatsoever, but gluten for sure with Hashimoto's.
Yeah, that's a good place to start. And I mean, and the rest of it too. I mean, I think nuts are a big digestive problem too, because we're told they're so healthy, but if you have an inflamed gut lining, it's like you're just throwing rocks at it or something.
You bet. You're just creating more and more holes in that gut, right? That gut's only one cell wall thick, right? And it's one big tube from the mouth to the anus. It's fascinating to me. I look at on my wall, you can't see, but I have a whole digestive system picture up here, and it's fascinating to me. One big tube. But the more you eat foods like the nuts, the things that stress will create a leaky gut, right? Bad food, inflammatory food, antibiotics. Antibiotics do great things. They kill bad bacteria, but they also kill all the good bacteria as well. I mean, viruses and just all kinds of things create stress, for sure, a leaky gut. And if you keep punching holes in that gut, you're just recreating systemic inflammation. Over and over and over.
If you just grew up in America, then you probably had all that. Like I was on antibiotics from like when I was 2 or, till I was like 30.
That pink, this is not an antibiotic. This is Relax Max from Zymogen, but to just calm you down. But the pink amoxicillin, how many of us drank the pink amoxicillin? That's right.
It's pretty good. It's pretty tasty.
It is good, right? But it destroyed our little gut, and we weren't taking probiotics. My parents didn't know about probiotics. I'm 54 years old. You're way younger than me. And I grew up eating processed, packaged, bagged, canned, tubed, fake, man-made food. My mom had a garden, but I also am of the generation when TV dinners came out and pot pies, chicken pot pies. I loved them. I thought that was fascinating to watch a TV dinner too. Frozen pizzas, Pop-Tarts, all of that destroyed our gut, and it's destroyed my health. I spent 24 years seeing doctors. IBS, I was diagnosed with IBS at 20. I had 3 colonoscopies before I was 44. I itched uncontrollably for years. 2 different dermatologists, lots of steroids. Then when I was 30-ish, 35-ish, diagnosed with lupus, which was a booger of a diagnosis. Rheumatology said, there's no cure for lupus, Dani. It kills people every year. And I was like, what? She said, here's your pain medicine, here's your anti-inflammatories, but these will destroy your liver and kidneys. Well, come to find out, it was Vioxx she put me on. Vioxx killed close to 300,000 people, sudden cardiac death. What? And then I was depressed. So guess what? I got put on Prozac and then Effexor because, that didn't work. And then Lexapro is a mess. 24 years and 10 doctors before a doctor ever leaned into me and said, Dani, what are you eating? Do you know your diet controls your symptoms, right? Do you take digestive enzymes and probiotics daily? And it changed my world 10 years ago. And that is how I got started on this journey. Was what? I just spent all that money at Vanderbilt, and they never once told me that there's a root cause for your patient's Hashimoto's, lupus, migraine headache, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, right? They weren't born with this most of the time. I wasn't born with lupus. You weren't born with Hashimoto's. We turn that on. And I am living proof what you turn on, Caitlin, you can turn off. But it takes a lot of work.
Yeah, but that makes the best practitioners is the ones who have empathy and have gone through it themselves.
The wounded warriors, that's what I call them, man. They're the best ones. You're right. Because they know what it's like to be sick. And I do. I know what it's like to be sick. I know what it's like to be depressed. I know what it's like to be in a well and thinking there's no way out of this, so.
That's amazing that you went through all that yourself. So what kind of lifestyle changes did you have to make in order to turn your health around? And what do you tell people to do?
Well, here's what I tell people, for those that know me, know I have 6 steps to healing, right? So I teach a class on my 6 steps. I have a book coming out this summer on the 6 steps, and it's very simple. Well, it's not simple. If it was simple, everybody be doing it, but it's common sense medicine. Eat well, number 1. Sleep well, number 2. Move well, number 3. Poop well. Decrease stress. Cultivate community. Those are my 6 steps, and that's what I start people off with immediately. We immediately do an elimination, right? Eat well, and we discuss. You want 1 ingredient food, just like what you cook, right? 1 ingredient food. God made 1 ingredient food. He made a ribeye. Is it a ribeye that's your favorite? That's my favorite too, is a ribeye. So, oh my gosh, a bone-in ribeye, right? He made a piece of chicken or pork. He made 1 ingredient fruits and vegetables. That's what I'm talking about when I'm saying eat 1 ingredient food. And you got to cook at home, because cooking is self-care. It's as simple as that. If you don't cook at home, you're never going to get your body to 100%. I'm right, right?
Yeah, well,
Yes.
most of the stuff they cook, either they put sugar or vegetable oils or soy sauce or something.
Yeah, they put whirl. Do you know what whirl is? I think it's whirl, WHIRL. Look that up. What the food industry does in the restaurant. It's an oil that they use that kind of tastes like butter. It's horrible for you. It's 100% processed, and it never liquid. I mean, it never gets hard. It stays liquid. Oh my gosh, it's awful for you. Yes, they do terrible things to make it taste good. You can't even taste food. If you did a blind test with, like, I don't know what, Brussels sprout, probably you can figure out what Brussels sprouts are, but just 1 ingredient food with olive oil, salt, and pepper versus what they put on it in a restaurant. You can't tell what this food is in the restaurant, and you can tell what a Brussels sprout is when you cook it, right, at home. So eat well is number 1. I'm telling you, it's the top of the pyramid. You have got to eat an anti-inflammatory 1 ingredient diet, in my opinion, and that's how I start everybody. And then, move well, eat well, sleep well, sleeping. I think eating and sleeping, quite frankly, eat, sleep, and move. Those are the big, big, big ones right there. Your body heals when you sleep. And if you can't sleep at night, you cannot decrease inflammation. So I tell people the bed is for sleep and sex only. If you're not doing one of the other, get out of the bed, right? And so get up, get out of the bed. But your bedroom has got to be a sanctuary. We can't get away from this computer right here, or these, lights above, and this phone and all these things during the day. But at nighttime, the bedroom has got to be free of electromagnetic fields and computers and wireless routers. And that phone can't be beside you over here charging. Even if it's on airplane mode, you can't have it plugged in beside your bed, because you're getting those EMFs out of the wall there. So the bedroom's got to be a sanctuary. You've got to sleep, and you've got to have great sleep hygiene. And we go through all kinds of ways to get you to sleep, right? From magnesium to melatonin to, tryptophan, whatever we need to use, 5-HTP, Epsom salt baths. That's like one of the biggest ones that'll help you sleep.
What about blood sugar? People, seems like if their blood sugar was really jacked up.
You bet. And then they wake up between 2 and 3 in the morning, or 2 and 4:30. And I'm like, do you wake up in the morning? I sure do. Well, most of the time that's people's blood sugar dropping, right? Because it'll drop between 2 and 4:30-ish. And then when your blood sugar drops, cortisol has to raise, right? Because you'd be in a diabetic coma if your cortisol didn't shoot up. Cortisol is your stress hormone. Well, unfortunately, the body doesn't, fortunately or unfortunately, the body doesn't know the difference between good and bad stress. That's a bad stressor on you when your blood sugar drops. So then you wake up, your cortisol shooting out. And again, protein right before you go to bed at night is what I have patients do. And if they wake up in the night, they can eat some protein again in the night to help put them back to sleep. Do you agree with that?
I mean, I think it gets better over time. Like at first, when I first was sick, I think my blood sugar was really messed up. But then now I don't think it's such an issue. But I've seen people, like, when they're first kind of realizing all this, they have to eat right before bed, or
And many of them have to eat as soon as they wake up, because I have a lot of patients who wake up in the morning and they have anxiety. and they're not anxious people, but they have anxiety when they wake up. And most of the time, that's a blood sugar dip. Most of the time. Now, it could be they got a bad marriage, they don't even want to get up, or they have a horrible job. I mean, it could be a million things, right?
Yeah.
But the majority of the time, it's blood sugar dropping, and protein is key to keeping that blood sugar stable. I agree, but the more you heal and the more you heal that gut, the more stable that blood sugar is. So sleeping well is huge. It's huge. And then moving well, movement. Our bodies are designed to move. And it's a double-edged sword a lot of times with Hashimoto's patients because they just feel so bad, right? They don't want to get up and move, and they don't. But anything you can do, especially if you feel horrible, I mean, just get outside. Like today in Nashville is an amazing day. And I'm going to get outside. I'm going to a park, and I'm going to get outside, and I'm going to put my feet to the earth and my face to the sun, barefoot to the earth, because I am a big proponent of earthing or grounding or forest bathing or whatever you want to call it out there. But you got to move your body. Your body is designed to be moved. And I'm a big believer, like Dr. Daniel Amen, who's a neurologist from the Amen Clinic, walk like you're late, 45 minutes, 4 days a week at the very least. Walking
like you're
is
late.
key. Yeah, walk
That's
like you're late. Bust it. But you got to figure out your movement, what works best for you, and what decreases inflammation in your body. Some people cross.
I was going to say, though, sometimes it can be, I'm sure you see these women out in Franklin, there's, yoga moms or whatever, and they have overdone it with the exercise. How does that work?
You bet they have. Yeah, well, that's what I was just getting ready to say, as you were saying, CrossFit, which CrossFit's a great thing, but CrossFit also hasn't been around 2,000 years like yoga has. But you can outdo yoga. You can overdo yoga as well, right? Pilates, you can. CrossFit, Orange Theory, Hot Box. I don't know what they're all called, but Fit Box. What's it? I don't know. Anyway, it's boxing, Title IX, whatever. Here's what I tell my patients. If we've got some adrenal issues going on, most likely you're going to feel worse after you exercise really hardcore. If you need to take a nap after you exercise, then you've got the wrong kind of exercise going on. We've got to pivot and make a turn and figure out what works best for you. It could be yoga. It could be just simply restorative yoga or Pilates or just walking initially. Some people, though, they feel great. They're CrossFit people, and they feel great, and they feel amazing after a hardcore workout. But the bulk of the patients that I get in this office initially, they can't tolerate that. And you tell a CrossFitter that they have to decrease CrossFit, that's one that they will just get up off this couch and want to walk out because they don't want to give it up. It's really something. They feel better mentally afterwards, but they're exhausted physically. That's too much exercise. But you got to know your body, because what I can do is totally different than what you can do, most likely.
And it's just for a period of time.
It's temporary. And it's just like this going on with us. This is temporary, this season of COVID-19. Every season changes, and we have to honor your body. You've got to be so in tune with your body when you have an autoimmune disease, right? Hashimoto's is what we're talking about today, but lupus for me, and rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, celiac disease, Sjogren's. I mean, the list goes on and on. Ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease. Those are all autoimmune diseases, and they're all the same. They wax and wane, right? And that's the thing. Some days you feel amazing. Some days you feel, you're down in the valley. So honor your body and do what you can do. And eventually you have more good days than bad days. It's a fact.
That's great. Yeah. One thing that irritates me is that you just said all those are the same. And I mean, I've been thinking that forever. But conventional medicine would treat all those as if they need a different drug or something, but really they all need to kind of starting at the same place.
You bet. You start with healing the gut, right? You start with moving. You start with sleeping well, pooping well. It's huge. Do you know how many people don't poop? That's like the fourth step for me, which really maybe, they're not in any certain order other than eat well. I think that's at the top. You got to poop. ideally you will poop like your dog does, right? You eat and the dog eats and they go and poop not too much longer. That's a healthy gut. And I get patients in here who tell me their primary care provider said that it's okay if you poop every 3 or 4 days. It is not okay if you poop every 3 or 4 days. What you eat today should be gone tomorrow from you, for sure.
Yeah.
So chew your food, right? People who bloat, who gas, who gurgle, they may need a digestive enzyme to help them digest their food, right? And I took a digestive enzyme for years. I still do, but I don't have to take it every meal now because I've worked on getting a resilient gut. But we don't chew enough. And then we get that huge pieces of food in the stomach, right? We don't have any hydrochloric acid going. We don't have any digestive enzymes, amylase, lipase, and protease, all the things that break down fats and proteins and carbohydrates. We don't have any of that. Then that undigested food goes from the stomach to the small intestine, and there we start wiggling apart those tight junctions with a leaky gut, right? And then your immune system gets turned on. And so I'm a big believer in enzymes, especially initially, combined with chewing your food.
Oh yeah. I used to take tons of betaine and
Yes, me too.
you name it. I took it. Um, but I think that one of the things that led me to carnivore was I had seen tons and tons of practitioners in California, everywhere else, in person, on the phone, and um, again, I could never make any headway in my constipation. So and even though a lot of other things got way better, that was the thing that just kept on no matter what I did. And so,
Really?
yeah. And then after a month or it was about 3 months on carnivore that it started being to where I didn't have to think about it anymore. I didn't have to take natural calm to go to the bathroom anymore.
Isn't that something? Yeah, see, I've never been constipated a day in my life. Mine was always irritable bowel with diarrhea, right? And I don't have that anymore. But I always tell my patients, I'm like, yeah, I poop like a goose. I'm just a good pooper. I've always been a good pooper. So I can't relate to you having not pooped. But I'm going to tell you, you are the rule, not I'm the exception, not the rule. Somebody who just is a good pooper. But magnesium, yeah, my patients come in here, they're on magnesium oxide, they're on magnesium citrate, they're on every kind of poop. Get that leveled out. And you know what? One reason a lot of people don't poop is they're dehydrated. I mean, they're just simply dehydrated. That's the easiest fix, is drink half your body weight in ounces in water daily. So I'm about 130 pounds or so. So I need about 65 to 70 ounces of water a day, minimum, right? If you drink coffee, this is actually hot tea, but if you drink coffee, you're going to need to add more water to that because this is a diuretic, right? So a lot of people don't poop because they're just dehydrated. But once you get the diet right, for you it was carnivore, right? Your body starts to kick in. Most people aren't born constipated.
No.
Most people, right?
Yeah, I mean, I never had a problem with that until about when I was about 31 or something. Like I was always just fine. I never had a problem with that. Then I just completely stopped.
Real. How old were you when you were diagnosed with Hashimoto's?
Same age.
Okay. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so eat well, sleep well, move well, poop well. And then we talk about stress. It's huge. It's huge. I think stress is one of the, it's a killer. I mean, stress will kill you. We know people have heart attacks, on Monday mornings or Sunday nights or whichever it is. I can't remember the number one, because they're stressed out about work on Monday, right? Your adrenals are so important when it comes to your thyroid as well. The gut affects the adrenals affect the thyroid affects the hormones. I tell patients it works from the basement up here. So we have to support your adrenals. We also have to cut things out. Now, I'm going to tell you, I know it's not real popular, but this season that we're going through right now with COVID-19, to me is a huge wake-up call for many of us to be still and know and calm down and set some boundaries. Many of us do not have any margin in our life at all. Nothing. And I tell patients every day, Caitlin, what is it that you can eliminate, automate, and delegate out of your life? I have a lot of young moms in here who are overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed with that. They're overwhelmed with working. They're overwhelmed if they stay at home. They're overwhelmed with homeschooling. They're just overwhelmed in general. And they're overcommitted. And our kids are overcommitted as well. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a really good season for us to step back, look at our lives and say, okay, what can I cut out? Where can I create margin? And where can I rest? And that's a big one, stress. And if your job is horrible and you can't stay in your job, then find a new job. I've done that. I know. Now I had a great job before, and I'm not commenting on my job before this for 5 years, but I'm just saying, before I open my practice, if you're stressed and you need to make a change, then step out and make the change. What's the worst that happens? It doesn't work, right? But what if it does work, right? Stress is huge.
Oh yeah, I had to change, as I used to be a personal trainer and I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I had to stop doing that because it was killing me. So
you bet.
And I was working it.
So you make a change.
Yeah.
And you found your calling, right? I feel like I've found my calling, and I don't want to live my life. Hopefully I'll live to a ripe old age, and I don't want to look back at 90 something years old and say, man, I missed out. I was too scared to leap. Just jump, do it. Find something that gives you joy. And I think that this season of having to hunker down, if we miss this, and if we miss this opportunity, then shame on us, because we've got the opportunity right now to make some big changes in our life, health-wise, emotionally, physically, spiritually, whatever. So I'm a big believer in decreasing stress. Stress brings on all kinds of chronic lifestyle diseases, and it increases inflammation in your body. And we can now say that all chronic lifestyle diseases like autoimmune disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, all chronic lifestyle diseases have an inflammatory backbone.
Absolutely.
Bet. And then cultivate community. That's my 6th step. You got to have community. Like, you've got your community. You can have an online community, and that's fabulous that you can do things, and have online. But I'm a big fan of eyeball to eyeball community. Get your neighborhood together, right? Get your girlfriends together. Have a party. Have dinner. Cook dinner at your house. The Mediterraneans, which, your husband's from the Mediterranean, right? Those people in Greece and Italy and Spain and all the places over there, their meals revolve around community, right? Am I correct on this?
Oh, absolutely. And family, big families.
They don't eat in their car. 20% of us eat in our car. What? Don't eat your meals in your car. Don't feed your kids in the car. So, cultivate community. Community is huge. People heal when they have community. It's just like our Hashimoto support group. We only meet every 6 weeks, but that's an incredible community the last 9 years that they have bonded together, and they do things outside of when we meet every 6 weeks. So I think community is the 6th and final step, but not necessarily in that order. So that's how I start patients off.
I think during this time, it's important to go a little extra. Like, I know yesterday I was out in the yard, and, we were 6 feet apart, but I was talking to my neighbors, and, you have to try a little harder now. And like with my family, we've been doing Zoom calls.
Yes.
Because my parents are older and they don't want to be exposed to anything. So they're staying home. And I mean, I am too, but, they don't even want us to come over, like, and visit in the house. So it's like, okay, we got to be creative. And
that's right. Well, today I'm driving to Clarksville right now. I'm picking up some food because I'm trying to support the local restaurant. And my son's going with me because we've been together this whole time. But we're meeting my dad and stepmom at a park in Clarksville. So we're going to have a middle deal there. We're putting the food in the middle, and we're all going to be 6 feet apart. But we're going to be out in the open air. But last night I planned a neighborhood cookout for 8 of us this Friday in our street, and we're blocking the street off, and it's going to be every like 6 to 8 feet blocked off. And we're gonna be outside, and we're gonna be social distancing, but we're going to do it together, and and keeping our boundaries and all that stuff. But you've got to make an effort to do it, because these things don't happen on their own. Just like I tell patients with their supplements, pills don't work in the bottle, people. You got to take them, right? Or food doesn't cook itself. You got to cook it. And it's the same thing with cultivating friendships. They don't happen magically. You have to work on cultivating community.
Yeah, well, it's so important. I think we're just stuck in our phones and stuck in the TV, and it's like that. And then you wonder why you don't feel good, and it's like, well,
right.
So, I know a lot of people. You see a lot of people, and maybe they start to try to get better, but what are some of the roadblocks you see them getting stuck with?
Well, the first one's diet, right? The hardest thing you'll ever do is change your diet, ever. We're so emotionally connected to food, it's not even funny. Everything we do revolves around a meal, right? So that's the biggest one for me, is actually changing the lifestyle, making a turn there, not buying the same foods over and over. Do you know we feed our kids the same 5 meals their entire life? We only eat about 12 foods our whole life. When our ancestors, they ate hundreds and hundreds of foods, right? There's all kinds of food out there to eat. It's the hardest thing to do. We are creatures of habit. We go straight to the same thing. So that's a hard one, is to make a shift on that one. That's the biggest one. And then a lot of people, I don't want to say fail, but they come back and they haven't done what they think they should do because they don't have the support of their family. That's a big one. And it may be a husband, or it may be a wife. I mean, it just depends. I may have a man sitting here who says, my wife is not on board with this at all. She's a Little Debbie's, Hostess cake, frozen pizza, Pop-Tart kind of woman. And we just eat, so I think that's a huge stumbling block for people if you can't get the whole family on board. Something that I do with patients, I give them any cookbook. I don't care I just say, if you've got a handful of a group of kids over there, and they're the picky ones, which, by the way, they weren't born picky. We create picky kids. And so that's a whole nother story. But I say, give them the cookbook. Let the kids pick out the meals. Don't tell them there's no, gluten, dairy, soy, sugar, corn, eggs, peanuts. They're not going to be reading that. They're just going to look at the title of it. Let the kids pick out the menus. They're going to be the picky ones. That seems to work beautifully if you can get the kids on.
That's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll just go by the pictures.
That's all they do. That's right.
And then they have a little more ownership.
You bet. You bet.
That's a good idea.
Thank you.
So what about medications? Like, a lot of people go to their regular doctor, they get on Synthroid, and then they're like, well, I still feel like crap. I don't get it.
Well, they're very lucky if they actually got on Synthroid, because the majority of the people are on generic levothyroxine, right? Okay. So Synthroid is branded levothyroxine. There's only one company that makes Synthroid, and that's AbbVie Pharmaceuticals. There's about 20 manufacturers, 15 to 20 manufacturers of generic levothyroxine. So most people who come to me are on generic, which means it's different every 30 or 90 days. So you're getting a different pill, a different manufacturer, a different strength. Do you know generic medications, all generic medications, this is worldwide or nationwide, I should say, I know, can be 20% underactive to 25% overactive. That's by law. So generic Benadryl, who cares if you're getting 80% of it or if you're getting 120% of it? Doesn't matter. Thyroid medicine is a medicine called a narrow therapeutic index drug, meaning teeny tiny little changes in the dose will create changes in the blood, meaning it will raise your TSH or lower your TSH. You won't feel good. You'll either be hyper or hypo. You can't use generic thyroid medicine and expect to feel good consistently. So the first thing I do if they're on Synthroid, if they're on generic, is I move them immediately to branded Synthroid before I even get their labs back. Then, and some people, Synthroid's the number 2 pharmaceutical in the world, by the way. Number two. So there are millions of people who feel good on Synthroid. That's fine. If you want to stay on it, that's fine. But the bulk of my patients are on desiccated pig thyroid, right? They're on WP thyroid or Armor or Nature Thyroid or NP thyroid. They're on desiccated, which has T4 and T3 in it, as well as 1, 2, and 5, and the other thyroid hormones. But everybody's different.
Why is that better with the T3 in it?
Well, it's not it. Okay, so in theory, again, I have some patients who feel fine on T4 only. T4, though, is not the gas pedal of the body, right? It's not what gives you your energy and your get up and go and your good hair and your good skin. That's T3. That's the thyroid hormone that gives you your get up and go. Not everyone converts T4 to T3. So Synthroid over to T3 in your body, right? You may be missing selenium or zinc or iodine or tyrosine in your body. Some people do, and they feel fine, and they never need T3. But the bulk of my patients all need either T3 added to their Synthroid, which would be Cytomel or liothyronine, or they need desiccated pig, which has all of it combined in it. But it's hard because, I have a lot of patients who see endocrinologists, and endocrinologists don't necessarily agree with that. So thank goodness I don't need an endocrinologist permission to write it. So I write it and patients feel better. But most of the time, because they have that extra T3, that boost of energy, right? And T3 is short acting. So it gives you energy, and then sometimes we have to redose it later in the afternoon.
Oh, so some people split their pills up.
You bet they do. And so it's different. What works for you is going to work differently for me. And that's why people don't want to treat thyroids, because it's not, here's your pill, here's your pamphlet. And that's what we tend to treat, is there's no difference between levothyroxine and Synthroid, or that's what I hear all the time. It's the same thing. No, it's not the same thing. And everyone's body metabolizes things differently. So that's personalized medicine right there at its best. What works for you, you may be on Synthroid and Cytomel. I may be on Armor Thyroid. Who knows? It's different for everybody. And find a provider, Caitlin, and this is what I tell patients every day, that's working for you. Because my job, if you're my patient, my paycheck goes off of you. I work for Caitlin Weeks, right? And if I'm not working for you, it is your responsibility and your right to fire me and find a new provider who will listen to you.
Well, I think we're seeing in this COVID thing, and with and all healthcare, it's a class issue, kind of. If you don't have money, you can't get help, and it's kind of sad. But I think, but on the same foot, on the other foot, you could also be your own advocate and help yourself a whole lot too, without paying a lot of money. What do you think about that?
You bet you can, right? You're responsible ultimately for your health. It's not my job to change your diet and exercise you're the only one who can do that, right? My job is to give you the best medication or supplement. Not everyone needs a pharmaceutical. Not everyone needs a thyroid medication. Some people can do well with a really great thyroid support supplement. Again, everyone's different, but you've got to be in tune with your body, and it's way more than just this pill. You're not going to feel good just taking the thyroid medicine. You've got to change the diet. You have to move your body. You've got to poop and decrease stress, and all the things combined, right? And again, it's your responsibility. It's like if you go to church, it's not the preacher's job to spoon feed you the Bible, right? If you're a Christian, your job is to go home and study and read. And that's the job I put that off on the patients. I'm like, look, if you're not doing the things that we need you to do, that's not on you. That's not on me. That's on you. The older I get, hardcore I am about that too, because sometimes people just aren't doing it, you
Well, I
know?
think in regular medicine too, there's more of an attitude of just take your pill and that's it. And that's
Right.
not how functional medicine works.
No, our bodies are designed to heal themselves, and I am proof of that. And it took you decades to get in this shape. It's going to take you longer than 6 weeks to get out of it. And I have to hammer that in people's heads every day. 6 weeks, you're going to feel better, but you're not going to be 100%, most likely. 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year down the road, you're going to look back and say, holy cow, Dani, can't believe I used to eat like that, or whatever. I feel so much better now. This is a marathon.
And it's every day too. I mean, just
Every
since
day.
just since this thing, um, it's like taking extra care. You have to take extra care of yourself because it's another level of stress.
You bet. You bet. Yeah, extra care. You've got to care for yourself. And as women, we put everyone else first but us. And I tell women every day, you are worthy to be number one. And then they just burst out crying, right? I'm like, your kids are fine, your husband's fine, all that's great. You got to take care of them, but you have to be first. There is a reason you're asked to put your oxygen mask on first if the airplane is going down. You are worthy to be saved, to be 100%, 150%. And when you are 150%, everyone else is better. But you don't get better so you can help everyone else. You get better because you're worthy to be better. It's a trickle-down theory. And as women, we don't believe in that. We have to get better because we have a family to take care of. That's BS. You get better because you're worthy to be better.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's so true. People put everyone else first, and then there's nothing left to give, and then everything falls apart. If mom is a wreck, then everything falls apart.
The woman, the mother, sets the tone for the entire family.
Yeah.
Entire family. And I spent lots of years screaming and yelling at my kids, and not realizing that I was setting the tone for that whole house. But I was running on empty, and we can't run on empty ever, especially those of us with autoimmune disease. We only have so much to put out, right? And then you're in the bed. And my job is to help you set boundaries and eat well, take a few supplements. I don't believe you can out supplement a bad diet. You don't need a ton of pills. You really don't. And you need a couple good quality supplements. You need to eat well. You need to set boundaries. And I'm telling you, your body is going to get better.
To do the rest.
You
Now, do
bet.
you see people getting off of their thyroid medications? Because I think some people are afraid to even start taking it because they're afraid it's a life sentence.
It's not a life sentence. As the body heals itself, the thyroid heals itself. And sometimes people are on it forever, and I tell people, what's the worst case scenario? You take a thyroid pill every day. That's the worst, right? If you feel better taking it, don't beat yourself up about it. But I have a whole lot of people who do. They wean down, or they wean down to barely anything. We play around with it. Sometimes, it's different again for everybody. One of the biggest things for me that has helped my patients more than anything the last 8 years, and we don't have time to talk about this, but it's low dose naltrexone, and we could do a whole hour on this. Another point, I've been on LDN for 8 years. I don't have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, but I do the lupus. It has helped me more than anything with my lupus. But I watch my patients' thyroid antibodies going down, going down, going down. And the LDN, it also will suppress that TSH many times. So we have to lower the thyroid medicine oftentimes on low dose naltrexone, which blocks pain receptors in the night, right? So LDN decreases inflammation in your body by raising endorphins in your body. And when your endorphins go up, your inflammation goes down. So I have a lot of patients that come down on their thyroid medicine, and many times they come off of it or very close to being off of it while they're on LDN.
Yeah, I've heard some great things about that.
It's a game changer. We
I've
can
got
talk
my,
about it another time
yeah.
because it's a phenomenal low dose naltrexone. I would highly recommend anyone look it up. Just Google up LDN for Hashimoto's and ask your provider to write that for you because it's a phenomenal, and it's a prescription. It's a prescription, but it's compounded and it's very inexpensive. Very.
Yeah, I think that's really good, especially if people are having, maybe they're just doing everything right and things aren't
That's right.
working.
That's right. And it helps you sleep beautifully, most people.
Oh,
Mhm.
wow.
And when you sleep, you decrease inflammation, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, so now everybody's worried about their immune system. What kind of tips can you give us to support our immune system during this challenging time?
Okay. So my comment on that one is we need to support our immune system year round, 100% year round. Now we're all hyper focused on it right this second. But vitamin C, number one, right? Everything I talked about, eat well, sleep well, the 6 steps. But then if we're going to go supplement wise, vitamin C to me is one of the biggest things that you can do to support your immune system now and year round. We also, it's amazing for your adrenal glands. We don't make vitamin C, but we store it in our adrenals. So if you're adrenally fatigued, you may get sick quicker than others or stay sick longer than others. So a minimum of 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C daily. I take about 4,000 a day. You can go 9,000, 10,000. You can do an IV. You can go up, 50,000. Vitamin C is huge to build your immune system.
And if you're constipated, you can do a flush.
You bet. You take it to a bowel tolerance. So I tell
Yep.
people you go till you have diarrhea, and then you back off about 500 to 1,000 milligrams, and usually that's your sweet spot. So vitamin C, and I mean right this second we're talking, I use ascorbic acid buffered so it doesn't tend to upset. We have a worldwide shortage on vitamin C currently. So I'm telling patients, I don't really care what vitamin C, just get some vitamin C in you, right now. We'll worry about the form and all that later when we get out of this crunch right now, but it's on that world back order. I've got, vitamin C is huge. Zinc is a big deal for your immune system, and zinc is also very important for your thyroid. So 30 milligrams a day of a great zinc would be amazing to support your immune system. Vitamin D. D is a big one. D3, but you need to know your D levels, but if you don't know your vitamin D levels during this crunch time, 5,000 international units a day is not going to hurt you. And then, most likely it's not. Now, if your D3 level's already 100, you don't need 5,000 a day, right? Because
Most people's not, though.
no, it's no way near it. I don't check anybody's levels who are up that high unless they're taking high. But echinacea, elderberry, oregano, oil of oregano, essential oils, right? I use a lot of essential oils to help build your immune system. But again, your immune system's going to be stronger when you eat well, when you sleep well, when you move well, right? When you decrease stress. Increased stress, decreased immune system.
Absolutely. It's all connected. So
Also, I'm sorry, I forget to tell you this. I am a gigantic fan of an infrared sauna, and it will boost your immune system. I don't know if you use a sauna. I love an infrared sauna. And right now during this time, it would be great to get in an infrared sauna as often as possible. And again, if you don't have an infrared, just sweat. Just get in a sauna. Don't get yourself all tied up in the minutia of far infrared and infrared. Just sweat.
that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people can find that. And so you've got a book coming out?
I do have a book coming out, but I want to talk about this real quick, real fast. I didn't say about drinking hot liquids. This COVID-19 is a mucosa problem, right? Which we talked about. No dairy whatsoever. People are dying from this many times because that mucus just builds up. I mean, copious amounts of mucus, right? They get better and then they take a dive for the worse. Hot liquid, hot tea, hot lemon water, hot coffee, just hot water. I don't care. Anything hot all day long, right? To decrease those secretions, to decrease the mucus in your body. So anything you can do to decrease the mucus secretions, drink it all day. Do it. That's a big one, I think, for this, trying to keep these lungs from having so much mucus in them.
Yeah. Well, and
Hot.
in any of the foods, this is not the time. I think we're seeing on social media, everyone's going for the Oreos or the crappy comfort food because they're stressed out. And this is like the worst time to be letting your diet go.
You bet it is. It is the best opportunity because we're at home. This is the greatest opportunity to learn how to cook. Very simple, right? Just one ingredient food, piece of steak, piece of brisket, right? I had brisket last night, or no, 2 nights ago, I'm sorry. One ingredient food, whatever you're eating, whatever you're eating, carnivore or not, simple food. Just learn how to cook one ingredient food.
Yeah, I mean, I've been making lots of soups and stuff for my husband. So
you bet. And that's hot, and it's helping break up mucus. So hot soups, hot liquids, hot bone broth. I mean, this isn't bone broth, but hot, as much as you can drink to keep all that loosened up, and no dairy whatsoever.
That's a great tip. I mean, as soon as you eat dairy, you can start to feel your throat. And me and my husband joke, we think that every night for about 30 minutes, we both think that we're getting sick. And then we're coughing and stuff. And then like by the morning, we're fine. It's like,
oh, I know. Yeah. I know. I've thought of me too. I'm like, oh my gosh, my throat, something's happening to me. Woo! And that's stress, right? So just get outside, get your feet to the earth, your face to the sun. Our dogs and cats, as a rule, do not have anxiety. Now, some do, but most don't. Well, guess what? They've got their paws they don't have tennis shoes on. They've got their feet on the earth, and they are soaking up all those minerals from the earth and those negative ions, and they roll on the grass, and my dog smiles. He's so old he can hardly, do anything, but I see him smiling, and as they wiggle. We too need to have people live longer at the beach. Get your shoes off. The sun, the salt, the sea. We can't be at the beach right now, but we can be out in our backyard. And it'll calm you down, because I'm seeing a whole lot of anxiety in this office right now.
Oh yeah. Well, I know that's where I'm going too after this. So,
and yes, we have a book coming out. Sorry, I interrupted you in the middle of that.
Tell us what's coming up. No, we don't want to forget anything. So tell us what's coming up for you and where people can find you and everything.
Well, we have a book coming out this summer that I'm extremely excited about. It's on my 6 Steps to Healing. We don't have the name of it yet. I don't have any of that, but if you go to our website, which is very simple, DaniWilliamson.com, you can sign up for the newsletter, and you will be the first to know when the book is coming out. And we're going to need some people to pre-read it and all that. So I'm really excited about that. And it is hardcore evidence-based book. So it's got a tremendous amount. It's already got 200 references in it, and we are 5 chapters in out of 10. So it's good. It's solid evidence. But we're here at the office. If they're local in Franklin, we have a great supplement store that's open to the public, Integrative Family Medicine, and that's open. You can look it up. You can look it up online. But Dani Williamson Wellness on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Same thing, Dani Williamson Wellness. And we do a free health show every Sunday night, Facebook Live, which is Sunday night. It's called Sunday Night Service. And we cover everything from Hashimoto's. Tonight I'm talking about clean crafted wine, and why, if you're going to be eating organic food and all that, you better be drinking clean crafted wine, because it's loaded with Roundup or traditional wine loaded with glyphosate and Roundup. So we're easy to get in touch with. Dani Williamson Wellness, DaniWilliamson.com, real simple.
And make sure it's DANI.
Yes, you bet it is, DANI. But I would love to get you on the newsletter list and let you know when the book comes out, because I'm excited. Like I said, I've been wanting for 10 years to write a book, and the whole first part of it talks about adverse childhood experiences, which we didn't talk about, and my childhood and the things that I went through in a very rough childhood, helped set me up for the chronic disease that I ended up with. And I'm a big believer that what happens, the first 18 years of your life is big. So the first part of the book actually dives deeply into adverse childhood experiences. So
that's a commonality between autoimmune patients.
bet it is.
I'm
bet
guessing.
it is. And every new patient who comes in this office gets an adverse childhood experience questionnaire. And I never did that until last year because I never realized how important it was. And I did a Sunday night service on ACEs with somebody who's an expert in it. And I was like, wow, we're missing this. I wasn't taught this in school.
No,
so
that's amazing because that's really cool. You don't see that often. So everybody make sure and follow Dani. Now that's your Sunday services inside of your group, your Facebook group.
It's actually on the public page, Dani Williamson Wellness. We have a private community, Inside Out Healing from Within. You have to ask to join that. But I had to do a public page, because when I did Sunday night service on there, it was only to those people.
Okay.
So now, so every Sunday night, 7 p.m. Central Time is when we do it, and it'll just pop up, Dani's live.
So that's your that's your business Facebook page.
That's exactly right.
You're right.
Caitlin, thank you so much.
Oh, one more thing. Do you do consults for people who are out of state?
You bet.
Okay.
Yes, I do. And so the office, DaniWilliamson.com, our phone number, our email is on there. Anybody who's interested in an appointment can email info@DaniWilliamson.com. And I have somebody who just manages appointments and consults. So we now are set up on telehealth. I've always done phone consults, but now we're set up on official telehealth, and we can do that. It's ideal to see somebody eyeball to eyeball. And we have a lot of patients who are out of state, and they'll come in for their first visit to sit here on this couch. This is where my patients sit, and I'm over there. And then we do the follow-ups by
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll put the links down below in the description box to all of her stuff. And we're just so happy that you came today, Dani. And I'm sure everyone's learned a lot. And, go and follow Dani. She's always up to something new. So, all right.
Healing your body, it's common sense. It's common sense. And I think we lose common sense many times in medicine. And my entire practice is based off of common sense, practical medicine. Garbage in equals garbage out, decrease stress. I mean, it's just common sense. And I think we need to circle back around to common sense medicine.
Well, that's great, Dani. This is going to help a lot of people. So you guys, if you like this video, please share it with a friend, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Caitlin.
Thank you.